a shorty in like some. Well, we'll find out just what that means in a bit. A police officer attached to the enforcement team of the Jos Metropolitan Development Board has been reportedly shot at Terminus Market, Jos, the capital of Plateau State. It was gathered that security operatives, including policemen and soldiers, have been mobilized recently by the state government to carry out enforcement against street trading in that particular area. Something else really interesting news in commemoration of his first anniversary. In office, the president has directed his ministers to present their performance reports to Nigerians. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, announced this at a press briefing in Abuja yesterday, and he said that the first anniversary is going to be a low-key celebration, and it would be marked with sectorial media briefings at the 47 federal ministries starting today. Well, we'll let you know as the story unfolds, right? So we'll find out we'll watch and see how that unfolds and what minimum wage they finally settle at. The House of Representatives on Wednesday urged the federal government to renovate abandoned buildings and forfeited land locally and abroad for public use. They said the resolution of the House was sequel to the adoption of a motion titled Call to Convert Abandoned and Seized Properties, including buildings and lands, for public use. Well, there's a lot to find out Mr. Larry's reaction to this particular story. Also in the news, yesterday, the lawmakers in Cross River State were fighting for the mace in the House of Assembly after Albert Ayambem's impeachment. Let's find out just how that plays out. By the way, if you're not on our YouTube, you won't be able to see the video. So go ahead and join our YouTube live. It is at Voice of the People, Abuja.
9 million response to this. 92, stop 26 for the removal of the Speaker of the Federal State. That's it. I still go. Mr. Oman, I represent the Speaker of the Federal. I hereby second the motion as
Okay. General Lucky Rabo had a lot to say about the attack on a uniformed man, the attack on the soldiers in Banik. He was talking about the fact that he doesn't support, attack on uniformed men, but he supports what exactly happened in Banik as opposed to
that individual. Besides being a soldier, even any uniformed person, for as long as he's an agent of the state, any attack on him is is an agent of the state. Any attack on him is an attack on the state. And so every Nigerian of goodwill must condemn such acts. And so for me, I join to support, on a slight provocation, they are now attacked to the extent, if not for the policemen and some other private individuals who rescued those, they would have been looking at in Okwama too, which of course does not speak good to us.
All right. Well, that's what General Lucky Rabo had to say about the attack on uniformed men. Looking at this particular conversation with the TUC, Mr. Festus Osifo had a lot to say about the negotiations of the minimum wage. Let's find out just what
they are going to up whatsoever that they have proposed. But we went to the meeting, and from federal government, they read that is their new offer. But from us, we told them clearly, because one of the reasons that we walked out the last time was that 48,000 naira for us was ridiculous. Because if you look at where an average worker is today, Sulai, if you remember that the last minimum wage act was signed into, became an...
You're looking at 77,000 naira as the floor of the conversation. We're supposed to move up from there. Well, let's see just how that plays out. It's really, really interesting at the moment. A lot of Nigerians had a lot to say, pretty much, but we'll check that out in just a moment. But first of all, let's reach out to Mr. Rufai Oseni to get a sense of what he has to say about some of the headlines this morning. By the way, about a wage a wage award that was 35,000 naira cost of living by the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. If you add that to the then minimum wage of 30,000 naira, it was supposed to be 42,000. If you add then the wage award 35,000 naira to the 42,000 naira, we're already looking at 77,000.
Nothing will happen. We can't move further. We can't get things done. And we need to get things done, the earlier the better. And the calculations of Osifu were very empirical and apt. So please, you have said wage award and everything. So how much are you putting on top of the wage award and all of that? And you're saying 50-something thousand. That's too paltry. Let's bump it up.
All right. So starting today, the president has directed his 47 ministers to showcase their scorecards directly to Nigerians in commemoration of his first anniversary in office. The Minister of Information announced this yesterday. And I can't wait to see what the different 47 ministers will say about their achievements so far. And wait and see, because it's starting today. I'm sure we'll have more to talk about moving forward about that particular situation. Mr. Rufai, we're seeing the federal government banning money rituals and smoking scenes in Nollywood films. I'm particularly interested in this because we know that those.
I don't really like to use the word expressly banned because it's just the Nigerian Film and Censors Board that will have to take a look at it and comment on the messaging, and they will be able to make amends. I don't think, because storylines differ. But what they should also do is to be able to talk to these producers, to be able to ensure that we have better imaging as regards storylines and make.
But what's your take on
Sure,
this?
the reason is that the stakeholders didn't want him again. When speakers are impeached, it's always for political gains. Embezzlement, yeah, there might be some factors to that, but it's pretty much because you're falling out on the political hierarchy. But the shenanigan in the house, that one is not new now.
If you are not backed by law to have that mace, right, as much as it's a symbol of authority, there's still law and order in that. So if you are not authorized by law to be the bearer of the mace, why then would you be hampering and scampering around to have
when
it?
Irrationality takes over the people's mind, they don't think rational again. So at that point in time, they are very irrational. So the first anything they can hold on to is a symbol of
what your take on this is. But seeing as this particular individual has been granted bail, it made me remember the former EFCC chair and how somehow we've not heard anything about Abdurrashid Bawa and his suspension, the cases surrounding his suspension and all of that.
They moved on. There was nothing really a government job serious, and they should be careful. Today you might be flying. But when the powers that be don't want you again, the way you will decelerate and the way they will make you so low will be very funny. I mean, at some point, if you ever remember the name Tafa Balogun, was a former IG then, was flying so high in this country, very exuberant police chief. If you're in a polygamous relationship, you know why? They said the whip they used to beat the first wife is still there for the new wife. And the new wife should never forget that the first wife was also the beautiful bride at a point. But a man that has the propensity to marry more than one can marry more than two or marry more than three. So be careful. In Yoruba, they will say, Pashoto, Kia woman because Pashoto Walaja Fuya Leos in Bende Fuya. So that's justice.
All right.
And that's justice. So I don't take all those things seriously.
All right. Lastly, before you go, House of Reps, they've urged the federal government to renovate and convert maybe abandoned buildings or forfeited and seized properties for public use. I know this is something that is really, really important at this point for properties to not be left
abandoned. And it's been going for over 10 years. If you can start with that one, if they are ready, they are ready. Yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rufai, for your time. I absolutely appreciate it.
Bless you. Yeah.
All right. Have a good day ahead.
Have a good one.
All right. To you listening, this has been Voice of the People, 96.1 FM. It's the front page review, by the way. We're checking out different headlines, cutting across different platforms this morning. as a dime. Godwin Osisioma is talking about what exactly is happening in the state. He said Soludo's administration approved the implementation of the full minimum wage of 30,000 naira. Upon his investigation, the minimum wage currently being paid to workers is 24,000 naira. The state government will hold a meeting with organized labor to ascertain where the difference of 6,000 naira is going to. Let's listen to what he had to say about this situation.
I am not here to defend the government with regards to take home of a worker in the state. But I'm trying to say that this present administration is yet to address the issues this afternoon. And I believe that if he is being cleared very well that they are not receiving the minimum wage, that the governor, we know, will immediately call for the implementation of the minimum wage. Where there is a differences, because I know that the last time we took what do you call it, the statistics that a worker is collecting somewhere.
No, would you respect?
There is a fault somewhere.
No, would you respect,
yes,
sir? You said just now, not some minutes ago,
yes,
that you are paying full minimum wage. That's what you said. We can play back this tape for you. Maybe I wasn't
said the government approved for the payment of the full minimum wage.
So are you paying full minimum
workers?
Because are they owing members of it? Because somebody even sent me a message, I don't know how verified. They're saying some level 10 officers even earn 50K a month in Anambra. So they are not paying full minimum wage. So the person was correct. Labor was correct yesterday.
And are you part of the protest on Thursday?
No worker is being...
Are you part of the protest on Thursday? Or you are not part of it? The new chairman
that should be after today's
do his own thing.
That should be...
Here. I hadn't played that. Yes, this is by Fred Nziako, who is a human rights lawyer, and he talked about any act of dehumanization of a soldier or law enforcement agent is condemnable. To whom much is given, much is expected. Soldiers must also conduct themselves properly. Even the police are not free from being manhandled by
in time. And the second unequivocal statement I will make in this regard is that to whom much is given, much is expected. The soldiers themselves must learn to conduct themselves, especially where they have to have an interface with the civilian population. The idea of we against them does not encourage cooperation among the military and the civilian populace. And it is that the police are not free from such manhandling in the hands of soldiers. Of course, examples are bound in all parts of Nigeria. So the most unfortunate aspect of it is that at the end of the day, when there is lack of cooperation between the soldiers, the military, and the civilian populace, the cohesion that is
acknowledged Governor Soludo's government's violation of the 2019 National Minimum Wage Act. He said, despite Congress's repeated efforts to urge the governor to pay workers their rightful wages, the government has instead engaged in grandstanding and evasive tactics. He said that the Anambra state government has been deducting pensions from workers' salaries, but not remitting them to the PFAs as required by the 2014 Pension Act. He said this constitutes a criminal breach of NARA that is being paid to workers as opposed to the already authorized 30,000 naira. So we're wondering where the 6,000 naira difference is going to. There's been talks about the governor trying to divert public funds. There's been issues of diverting public attention from the unpaid minimum wage and pension deductions by accusing the state workers of
especially the level of income they get from the state. There is no reason Anambra cannot afford minimum wage. But having said that, I think there is need for labor to be a lot more serious about the protection of the rights of workers. I think Nigerian Labour Congress and the TUC should sit down and actually investigate and audit this minimum wage implementation in every state of Nigeria is that labor is not protecting the interest of workers anymore. That is the biggest problem. That is, most labor leaders see the leadership of labor the same way our political leaders see political office. It's an opportunity to feather their nest. Sorry, but that is what is happening. Because if you listen to that guy, you'll be ashamed of the labor movement. Why would the labor leader be talking like that? It's either the man is paying minimum wage or he's not.
He's not.
Whether he's friendly or unfriendly, it's not the important issue. But because they have soiled their hands, because they have been compromised, they are pretending that they are protecting the workers and at the same time pretending that they are protecting the interests of the governor who pays them sometimes. I think we need to say categorically that this is not a matter of rhetorics. If the workers are not being paid, and I'm aware that these magical or mysterious deductions are going on in different places because I receive such reports myself. But because civil servants are afraid of victimization, they don't speak up. That's the truth of the matter. There are states where there are all kinds of deductions that, in fact, sometimes they deduct the money and they won't even give them a pay slip to tell them what they deducted. Putting it out in public domain that persons in this ministry, that ministry are paid 26,500, this, that. You write it down, you just, and then we all raise the queries. We have the evidence. We now ask, so why is this person being paid this much? What are the deductions for? Where is the pay slip? Get the pay slip, remotion, so that people won't be arguing about these things or saying whether the person is friendly or not friendly, being blackmailed or not being blackmailed. They should give us clear information so that when we now give the government the information, they respond to this specific information. That's what we should be doing in Anambra State. But I'm surprised that this is happening because Anambra is a wealthy state. Anambra can afford to pay minimum wage, and we shouldn't be hearing such stories from that you are listening to these things that politicians. How much is the salary of a governor? The person can decide to leave the salary and still make much more money elsewhere. So I don't like such conversations about politicians saying things that make us look like we are imbeciles. I don't like it. The truth is that Professor Soludo is now a politician, and unfortunately for everybody, he is. Maybe one day we'll talk about that. So I wasn't impressed. Everywhere I see professors, I'm very suspicious. I'm not joking. Because we have reduced everything about academic work to theory, to fraud, to cut and paste, and they supervise institutions that do these things. So I'm not impressed, really. They go to other countries. It is the elite that provides solutions. We're talking about microfinance banking today. It was invented by a doctor of economics called Mohammed Yunus, today a professor everywhere. I mean, universities are what professorship. You know how they do it. In Nigeria, we know how it happens. I know some very scandalous cases of people trying to become professors. So I stop talking about Soludo said, Soludo didn't say. He's an internationally known professor. But as it is now
he's
not
a
professor of
politician
economics anymore. He's a politician, and he's of information. The truth is that censorship may be good in some circumstances, but you see, when you suppress information, it doesn't necessarily solve the problem. I think it's better to manage information, not suppress it. It's like saying, oh, don't write about crimes in novels. I mean, growing up, I remember people read James Hadley Chase and all of those rituals in movies. What of skits? I mean, we live in an era where you can't really suppress information anymore. With the internet and social media, it's impossible. So what you're going to do is to drive the information from one platform to another. And there are movies that may not be, I mean, the way Nigeria works now, so, I mean, people may do a movie and just put it out
on YouTube.
Online, or on YouTube. And so how do you censor that? How do you control that? I think we should allow National Orientation Agency to dock. It's not about censorship. Oh, don't tell these stories anymore. People will tell stories, especially now that we have means of bypassing regular movies. But the question is, are we managing the stories we are telling? I've said it that we have people who do knee-jerk approach in governance. We don't have thinking leaders, and that's one of the biggest problems we have. When there's a
this is according to the Minister of Information and National Orientation. Maybe he should start with himself, owing to the conversation that we just had. What exactly is the Ministry of Information and National Orientation doing about drug abuse, the different issues that we're having here and there, banditry, kidnappings, and all that? Maybe he should start with his own ministry to let us know what they're doing about sensitizing
about the objective outcomes, if any. You know, if you want these things to work, if you want your monitoring and evaluation to work, there should be framework, there should be parameters. We have not seen any. So they are going to be listing projects. One of the things I find very, very annoying about Nigerian politicians is that once you see 1 year in office celebration, both for the legislative arm and the executive, what you see just basically, you see pictures of houses, transformers, covered, empowerment projects in mother and child, not just pregnant women, for 2 of them 500 naira. So find out that we are not a serious-minded people, set of people. We should provide parameters. So when you are giving us your scorecard, like in a primary school now, university, wherever, you say this is the subject, this is the, what do they call it again, scheme of work for primary school, syllabus for secondary school, course outline for university, and then you tell me what I'm studying, you set the exams, that means the person will pass. The name means that if you examine yourself, you will pass. So when they call him, every ministry should manage information properly and put out the relevant information. The human resources management, how do you do recruitment? How do you prepare, ensure that your people are giving us the best? That there are some things that we shouldn't see, but they minded corporation. And in corporations, you don't have people tell me what you achieved without any framework or parameters. It doesn't work that way. But let's listen to what they will tell us. We built this, we conducted this workshop, we traveled to this place, we went for this seminar. They'll give us a list of activities that are supposed to be achievements.
All right. We'll watch and see how that plays out. Of course, they'll be starting today, so I'm sure we get a couple more ministers reeling out their approval.
Like you rightly pointed out, sorry to interrupt, Mr. President should also tell us the army barracks. When policemen assault us, we don't close the police stations. While I'm not excusing or exonerating people who assaulted the soldiers, we also need to manage the level of interface and interactions between soldiers and the members of the public. And we need to tell soldiers that we are not bloody civilians. We are Nigerians and soldiers and Nigerians and policemen. And stop victimizing Nigerians. Like I said, I'll say it again. When they beat us up, we don't close their barracks. We don't close the office when policemen assault us. We shouldn't close barracks. It's the people who assaulted the soldiers are a few young men. And you are punishing hundreds of businesses. Who does that? Who does that? These guys should go to their shops. We are not thinking of how they are feeding. We are not thinking of how the families are faring. And you are punishing maybe 500 families, not just individuals, for the offense of 5 boys. That doesn't make sense. It's the same knee-jerk approach I was talking about. Our leaders don't think. We need to actually begin to pray for them if that's the only solution left, so that they will learn how to think. That's a problem. Put it on the table, think about it, and respond appropriately. Learn to keep mute and stay away from security agents. And that's one major reason we are losing the battle to bandits and insurgents and all kinds of people. We need to build that bridge again, and we cannot build it by shutting down people's businesses because a few young men had an altercation with a few soldiers. It doesn't speak well of our ability to manage. There's something we call crisis management. We call it alternative dispute resolution 2, conflict management.
On that note, we're wrapping up the show this morning. Thank you so much for listening to VOP 96.1 FM. Mr. Larry is always very, very informative with his point of views. And at this point, yes, we should have the Banex be reopened so that businesses can continue. I mean, it's not just the businesses themselves, the owners of the shops. It's people that also